You don't lack focus. You've simply let others take control of it. Focus isn't just a skill. It's a form of power. And every time you reach for your phone, every moment your mind drifts, you hand a piece of that power away. Not all at once, but little by little, moment by moment, until you forget it was ever yours to begin with. Today, you take it back. Quietly. Deliberately. Not with force, but with presence. Because reclaiming your focus isn't just about doing more. It's about returning to yourself. In a world that profits every time you forget who you are. 1. You're not distracted, you're being manipulated. Let's face a truth no one really wants you to consider. You're not lazy. You're not bad at focusing. You don't have a short attention span. You are being manipulated. Every time you unconsciously grab your phone. Every time a ping drags you away from your task. Every time you can't sit still for 10 minutes without reaching for a screen, it's not because you're weak. It's because thousands of engineers, algorithms, and psychological strategies have been designed, specifically, to hijack your attention. They don't just attract you. They program you. You think you're making choices. But most of the time, you're just reacting. Epictetus once said, "It's not events that disturb us, but our view of them." Distraction works the same way. It's not something that just happens to you, it's something you've allowed. In a world that screams for your attention every second of the day, focus is rebellion. When you choose silence, when you choose to finish one thing without interruption, when you choose to tune out the digital noise, you are resisting a system designed to leave you drained, scattered, and unfulfilled. And here's the truth you need to burn into your mind. Focus isn't a reflex. It's a decision. It doesn't come from inspiration, it comes from resolve. Look at the mental giants of the past, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus. They didn't have smartphones or social media or notifications. But they still wrestled with a world constantly pulling them away from themselves. They chose stillness. They chose depth. They chose to live lives where their minds remained their own. Today, you can make the same choice. Turn off your notifications. Set your phone down. Close your eyes. Breathe. And ask yourself, who's really in control of your attention? Do you truly want to spend your life giving away your mind, minute by minute? Because your attention is your most valuable asset. And every time you surrender it to noise, you give away a piece of yourself. Focus isn't a goal. It's a belief system. It's your way of saying, I own my mind. No one else gets to take it. This is the battle of our generation. Not against people, but against a system designed to keep you from going deep, staying grounded, or feeling fully alive. And you don't have to be perfect. You just have to start. Right here. Right now. Turn off the noise. Pick one thing that matters. And give it everything, like your life depends on it. Because honestly, it does. 2. Turning off notifications equals declaring mental sovereignty. If you've ever wondered why it feels so hard to stay focused, now you know the truth. It's not because you're broken. It's because you're living inside a system built to seize control of your mind. But here's the good news. You don't have to smash your phone. You don't have to disconnect from modern life. You just need to start with one small act, turning off notifications. It might sound simple, but it's not. It's a statement. A quiet revolution. When you turn off notifications, you're telling the world, I guard the gates of my mind. Not a machine. Not an algorithm. Not anyone else. Picture this. Marcus Aurelius, emperor, warrior, philosopher, didn't write his journal for likes. He didn't write for validation. He didn't write to be seen. He wrote to understand himself. To find clarity in the chaos. To discern what mattered, without the noise of the crowd. If you want to live like a modern stoic, start there. You can't control the algorithm, but you can control your response to it. Every time you receive a notification, your brain gets a hit of dopamine, the chemical of reward, of habit, of addiction. Notifications weren't designed to serve you. They were engineered to keep you hooked. Not for your growth, but for their profit. Every time you check your phone, you're playing a game you were never meant to win. Unless you opt out. And it starts with silence. Not outer silence, digital silence. No notifications. No buzz. No blinking lights. You don't need to know who liked your post. You don't need to reply instantly to every message. Not because you're careless, but because you're doing something more important. Protecting the space where your mind lives. In a world where every tool is optimized to keep you busy, silence is your rarest mental asset. When you shut off notifications, you're not just reducing noise, you're reclaiming the inner territory of your life. You're doing something few men have the discipline to do. You're choosing what gets your attention. That's strength. That's sovereignty. That's how you reclaim your life. Try this today. Turn off all notifications except those that are truly urgent. Put your phone on silent for 3 uninterrupted hours each day. Set time limits on social media and enforce them like boundaries between you and your enemy. Small actions. Massive ripple effects. Turning off notifications isn't a productivity hack. It's an act of freedom. It's your way of saying, I choose what enters my mind and what doesn't. 3. Do one thing and finish it with everything you've got. By now, you've taken back the gates to your mind, you've turned off the noise, declared your sovereignty, and chosen silence over chaos. But there's another enemy still lurking, fragmentation. Because even in silence, your mind can still scatter. You can still drift, jump from task to task, idea to idea, never fully landing on any of them. And that, right there, is how most people lose the day. The modern world doesn't just steal your attention, it divides it. And the most dangerous distraction isn't social media. It's trying to do too many things at once. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, warned us. He who is everywhere is nowhere. Multitasking isn't a strength. It's a slow bleed of mental clarity. It feels productive, but it drains your focus, fractures your purpose, and leaves you empty. You start 10 things. You finish none. And by the end of the day, you're exhausted, but nothing real got done. So here's the shift. Do one thing. Just one. And give it everything. It doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be worthy. Pick the thing that matters. The thing that's real. The thing that, if completed, would actually move your life forward. Then guard it like your mission. Treat it like war. Eliminate every intrusion, every excuse, every drift toward the unimportant, and see what happens when you bring your full weight, full mind, and full presence to a single task. This is the muscle most men never train. The ability to finish. Not just start, not just plan, but finish, with focus, power, and clarity. When you do one thing and do it to the end, you don't just gain momentum. You become dangerous. You become the kind of man who finishes what he starts, no matter how long it takes or how hard it gets. And the world has no defense against a man like that. Start with this simple, daily ritual. Write down 3 things you need to do. Then circle one and make it your mission to finish it fully. Block time. Guard it. Go deep. Don't move on until it's done. You'll be surprised how powerful you feel when you start actually completing the things that matter. This isn't about getting more done, it's about getting the right thing done. It's not about busyness, it's about direction. Because the truth is this. You don't need more time. You need fewer distractions and deeper presence. And it all starts with a single act of focus. Today, choose one thing. Finish it. And feel the power of full presence return to your life. You've decluttered your mind. You've taken back your time. Now, it's time to build. 4. Write down 3 things, finishing one is enough. In the last step, you learned the power of doing just one thing and doing it to the end. But let's be honest, most men don't fail because they don't start. They fail because they drown. They drown in lists. They drown in shoulds. They drown in a mental storm of unfinished business, and most of it doesn't even matter. We were never meant to juggle 15 priorities at once. But somehow, modern life convinced you that your value comes from how much you can do, not how deeply you can do it. That's the lie. A long to-do list feels productive. But it's not. It's anxiety on paper. It's a trap in disguise. You glance at it, and suddenly your nervous system tightens. You haven't even started, but you already feel behind. Not because the work is hard, but because the list is impossible. And when everything is a priority, nothing is. The Stoics didn't chase volume. They chased clarity. They understood that real progress doesn't come from doing more. It comes from choosing well and doing what matters with intention and precision. They didn't write long lists to prove they were busy. They wrote short lists because they knew the cost of a fragmented mind. So here's what changes everything. Don't try to do it all. Write down 3 things. Then finish one and let that be enough. You don't have to complete all 3. You don't even need to touch the second one. Because the goal is not to conquer your day like a checklist machine. The goal is to move the needle where it counts. One well-executed action is worth more than 10 half-finished efforts. One task done with full focus, clarity, and presence will do more for your momentum than spinning your wheels all day trying to cross off busy work. This isn't about being lazy. It's about being ruthless with your energy. It's about honoring your limits, not as weakness, but as leverage. Because a man who knows what to ignore is a man who's already halfway to power. 5. Silence is the highest productivity zone. After stripping your to-do list down to what truly matters, there's one more force working against your ability to go deep, the ambient hum of constant input. It's subtle. It doesn't scream like a notification or flash like a pop-up. It whispers. It lingers. It stays in the background, just enough to keep your mind restless and shallow. And this is the truth few admit. You're not just distracted by your tasks, you're distracted by your environment. We live in a world where silence has become rare. There's always something playing: music, podcasts, notifications, updates. Even when we claim to be focused, we're often surrounded by noise that never lets us go fully inward. But the deepest work, the kind that rewires your life, only happens in silence. Not the absence of sound. The absence of mental clutter. Silence isn't emptiness. It's presence. It's where thoughts aren't competing with voices. It's where clarity emerges without a script. It's where the creative mind stops reacting and starts responding. Marcus Aurelius wrote at dawn. No podcasts. No chatter. No media filling the air before his mind could form its own thoughts. He didn't need input. He needed space. In today's world, silence is a lost art. But it's also a performance enhancer more powerful than caffeine, supplements, or any productivity app on your phone. You don't need more information, you need less interference. That's how you go deep. That's how you shift from scattered to precise. That's how you finally hear the thoughts that are actually your own. Noise demands nothing, but takes everything. Silence demands discipline, but gives back more than you could imagine. In silence, work becomes sharper. Thinking becomes clearer. Direction becomes real. You stop just doing things and start becoming someone. 6. Guard the gates to your mind. After embracing silence as your strongest productivity zone, there's a new question you must ask yourself: what are you letting into that silence? You've cleared the noise. You've carved out space. But if you leave the gate open, it will all flood back in, quietly, invisibly, through what you consume. Because here's the truth. You're not just shaped by what you do, you're shaped by what you allow in. Most men guard their homes better than they guard their minds. You wouldn't let trash pile up in your living room. You wouldn't leave your front door wide open to strangers. And yet, you scroll through endless feeds, absorb gossip, watch outrage, read junk, and call it keeping up. That's not awareness. That's mental pollution. Every piece of content you consume has a cost. It either deepens your clarity or fractures your focus. It either strengthens your sense of direction or blurs the path entirely. The modern world is overrun with mental calories, fast, easy to consume, addictive information that feels urgent but leaves no nourishment behind. And like junk food, the effects are slow and subtle. Until one day, your thinking isn't yours anymore. Your goals aren't clear. Your inner compass spins wildly, and you don't know why. This is why the Stoics practiced discipline over input. They didn't just control how they acted, they controlled what they allowed themselves to see, hear, and believe. Marcus Aurelius didn't start his morning scrolling news from the empire. He didn't poll the crowds before he made decisions. He started with himself. With questions. With writing. With stillness. He was the gatekeeper of his own mind. And if a Roman emperor could carve out that level of protection in the chaos of an empire, then so can you, here, now, in the chaos of the modern world. Guard your inputs like you would guard a fortress. No social media before 9 a.m. No doom scrolling before bed. No random news feeds dictating your mood or values. Feed your mind like you'd feed your body, with discipline, clarity, and real intent. Because a clean mind does more than produce good work. It creates a life worth living. Start today. Filter your inputs. Stand watch at the gates of your mind, because nothing shapes your future more than what you allow to enter it. 7. Discipline over mood. Once you begin guarding the gates to your mind, filtering out noise, distractions, and shallow input, there comes a moment of reckoning. The moment when it's just you and the work. No more excuses. No more mental clutter. No more stimulation to blame. Just you, your goals, your mission, and the uncomfortable space between intention and action. And here's where most men falter. They say they're waiting for the right time. They say they're waiting for motivation. They say they'll do the thing once the mood feels right. But that moment never comes. The truth is brutally simple. If you wait to feel like doing it, you'll never do it. That's because real work, deep, meaningful work, doesn't feel good at first. It feels hard. It feels uncertain. It feels inconvenient. It asks something of you that distraction never does, inner command. You don't need inspiration. You need ignition. And ignition doesn't come from mood, it comes from discipline. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations because he felt like it. He didn't sit down in the early hours of the morning thinking, let me wait for the perfect vibe. He wrote because he needed to. Because it was how he sharpened his thoughts. Because it was how he stayed grounded in the chaos of power, war, betrayal, and responsibility. He didn't write to feel good. He wrote to become strong. And that's the shift most modern men need. You don't train because you're in the mood. You train because your body doesn't respect weakness. You don't write because you're inspired. You write because your mind doesn't sharpen itself. You don't show up because it feels easy. You show up because discipline builds trust with yourself, and nothing is more powerful than being able to rely on your own word. Mood is a follower. Discipline is the leader. And the more you act from discipline, the more you begin to reshape the terrain of your emotions. Not the other way around. It's not about grinding every hour. It's about learning to show up, especially when you don't want to. That's the moment your character gets carved. That's where your mental edge is forged. No man ever built a life worth living on the back of mood swings. But history is built by those who show up, regardless of how they feel. So here's the practice. When you don't feel like writing, write anyway. When you don't feel like training, train anyway. When your mind whispers later, act now. When motivation dies, let discipline drive. Because your future doesn't care how you feel today. It only responds to what you build. 8. Go slow to go deep, not fast to do more. Once you stop waiting on motivation and start leaning fully into discipline, there's a temptation that creeps in quietly. Now that you're showing up, you want to move faster. You want to check more boxes. You want to get ahead. And yet, speed, without presence, becomes just another trap. In a world obsessed with velocity, depth has become rare. Everyone is racing to be first, to post more, to reach wider. But almost no one is going deep enough to create something real, something that lasts, something that matters. Because deep work doesn't happen at the speed of swipe, scroll, or sprint. It happens at the speed of silence, solitude, and sustained attention. Seneca warned us centuries ago. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. And in the modern world, we don't just waste time, we fragment it. We break our day into shallow tasks, quick replies, half-listened podcasts, distracted conversations. We chase productivity like addicts, thinking more, faster, louder must be better. But in reality, speed kills focus. It dilutes thought. It cheapens effort. It makes everything feel urgent and nothing feel meaningful. Depth, on the other hand, is a slower frequency. It requires space. It requires solitude. It requires effort that doesn't pay off in the first 5 minutes. But this is where your greatest breakthroughs live. Not in shallow multitasking, but in sustained pursuit. 2 hours of uninterrupted effort can be worth more than an entire day of distracted doing. 1 hour of focused presence can create what 5 hours of fragmented attention never will. But you only access that level of clarity when you slow down enough to hear your own mind again. To go deep, you must be willing to let the world move faster than you. You must be okay missing the trending conversation. You must trade urgency for impact. Because the men who shape the world are not the ones who do the most things the fastest. They are the ones who go deep enough to find truth, then bring that truth into the world with clarity and strength. In the end, the most valuable things you create won't come from moving fast. They'll come from moving deliberately. From choosing quality over quantity. And from having the courage to go slow, so you can finally go deep. 9. 5 minutes every night, like Marcus. After embracing the power of going slow to go deep, there's one more dimension of clarity that remains, the quiet reckoning that happens at the end of each day. You've trained your mind to focus. You've learned to guard your attention. You've chosen depth over speed. But even with all that, without reflection, the lessons of the day begin to evaporate. Because without reflection, there is no integration. And without integration, there is no real growth. This is why Marcus Aurelius, after long days commanding armies and governing empires, ended his evenings not in distraction, but in self-examination. He didn't wait for some grand moment of insight. He didn't seek comfort in entertainment or indulgence. He asked himself simple questions, quietly, deliberately. What did I do well today? Where did I fall short of my principles? Where did I allow fear, pride, or impulse to lead me instead of wisdom? This wasn't self-judgment. It was alignment. A return to center. A reconnection to what mattered. Because the Stoic life isn't measured in external achievement. It's measured by how faithfully you live your values when no one is watching and no one is applauding. Modern life rarely invites this kind of pause. We end our days the way we move through them, fast, distracted, unconsciously. Screens flicker. Notifications continue. Minds spin without closure. And slowly, without noticing, we lose track of who we're becoming. But that 5 minutes of reflection, that honest, undistracted look inward, is how you anchor the day in meaning. It's how you capture lessons before they fade. It's how you carry forward wisdom instead of repeating cycles. The work of becoming a better man doesn't just happen while you're moving. It happens in stillness. in silence, in the courage to examine your own soul without flinching. And all it takes is 5 minutes. 10. Focus is resistance. After the quiet discipline of nighttime reflection, something begins to surface. Not just clarity, not just insight, but a deeper realization that in choosing to live with presence, with depth, with deliberate thought, you are, in fact, going against the grain of the modern world. Because focus isn't just a tool anymore. It's an act of rebellion. In a system engineered to steal your attention, to monetize your mind, and to fragment your time, every moment of stillness becomes an act of defiance. You're not just trying to be productive. You're trying to protect something sacred. Your capacity to think, to feel, to choose. Most people will never know what it feels like to be fully present. They are swept up by the algorithm, the headlines, the noise. They don't even know they've been conquered because the takeover was invisible. But when you choose to focus, truly focus, you are refusing that takeover. You are saying, this mind is mine. This time is mine. My life is not for sale. That is not a small thing. The Stoics understood this long before our digital age. They saw how attention shapes destiny, how noise weakens the soul, and how self-command begins with choosing what not to give away. Today, attention is currency, and everyone wants yours. Brands want it. Apps want it. Politicians want it. They don't just want your money. They want your mind. Because if they have your attention, they have your behavior. And if they have your behavior, they control the arc of your life. So when you resist, when you narrow your focus, shut out the noise, and bring your full self into this moment, you are not just optimizing your performance. You are reclaiming your autonomy. In this world, the focused man is a rare force. He is not moved by hype. He is not ruled by impulse. He is not seduced by every new distraction. He becomes unmoved, unshaken. He becomes dangerous in the best possible way. Because nothing is more disruptive to a system built on distraction than a man who refuses to look away. This isn't just focus, this is resistance. If you followed this far, then you know this wasn't a list of hacks. This wasn't productivity porn. This was about something deeper. A philosophy. A code. A rebellion. Every time you choose presence over noise, depth over speed, discipline over mood, you are rejecting the modern world's most seductive lie. That your attention is theirs to control. You've learned to protect your mornings. To clear the noise. To simplify your days. To reflect with honesty. And above all, to act not from impulse, but from principle. That is the essence of the modern Stoic. Not a man who escapes the world, but a man who walks through it, unmoved. Comment one thing you will do today to reclaim your focus, even if it's small. Declare it. Own it. Follow to continue learning how to live like a modern Stoic in a world designed to steal your mind.